Hello, my name is Stephanie Watkins, and this is my Communications Practicum project, the final level. And my project is based off of the movie Forrest Gump. Here we have our table of contents. And for the objective, we're going to go over culture, listening, perception, perception of self, conflict management, and nonverbal communication. This movie has several different settings, and it depicts the story of a man who has had the pleasure to travel the world on more than one occasion and by several different means. You'll see more than one scene with Forrest Gump in the White House. You'll see Forrest Gump in Vietnam and war, and you'll even see him in Manhattan, New York. But most of the story takes place in Alabama. Forrest Gump is an American film released in 1994, and the movie chronicled 30 years of the life of an intellectually disabled man that journeys through with experiences that the average person can only dream of. He had a mere IQ of 75, but Forrest Gump still manages to get a full scholarship to the University of Alabama to play football. He fought in the Vietnam War, saving the lives of several of his comrades, and even earned a Congressional Medal of Honor and recognition from the president. When he was wounded at war, he was introduced to table tennis, and he became a world-famous table tennis champion, was even sponsored by big companies. He made lots of money doing this. He spoke in front of millions during an anti-war rally and received a standing ovation. He ran a successful shrimp company and used his profits to invest in Apple computers. Eventually, it solidified him as an extremely wealthy and successful man. The film earned 6 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, and was critically acclaimed worldwide. While many people would think that this is a story about the love that he had for his childhood friend Jenny, I would definitely have to argue that this movie is so much more than just a love story. The main characters of the movie are Forrest, played by Tom Hanks, Jenny, by Robin Wright, Mrs. Gump, played by the famous Sally Field, Bubba Blue, by Mykelti Williamson, Lieutenant Dan, by Gary Sinise, and Forrest Jr. by Haley Joel Osment. Now we'll go on to the objective and talk about how these 6 topics relate to the movie. The first one is culture. The book defines culture as the way we do things. And in the movie, much of what Forrest did stemmed from the teachings of his mother. She was his culture, provider, and teacher. His mother did her best to instill in him that he was as normal as anyone else. And even as he grew up, he still referred to the things that he was told from her in an attempt to reason with people. In contrast, from other people, we learn from our parents, and then as we grow older, we learn from experiences. And I think this is what they call wisdom. In the movie, however, Forrest was not wise, just extremely lucky by always being in the right place at the right time and held by fate. He was considered dumb to others, especially those that didn't really know him. But he still managed to be able to roll with the punches and live an extraordinary life despite being naive. He was a part of many things bigger than himself, like the success he had in the Vietnam War. As different as he was, or as dumb as he was considered, he was never ostracized from a group, and this is also what made the movie special, in my opinion. Now for listening. There's a lot of levels of listening in this movie. In many interactions with people, Forrest tends to focus on the speaker instead of the message. Forrest interpreted communication by what he felt, and he fed off of the body language and emotions of the people he interacted with. His actions and words spoken were based off of the energy given to him. This allowed him to thrive in life with people because it gave him a high essence of innocence. It's clear he didn't truly understand what people were saying to him, but his ability to read and feel their emotions made his perception of everyone else quite accurate. Perception. Forrest is an intellectually disabled man and oftentimes is never really on the same page with the people he interacts with throughout the movie. Even though Forrest is intellectually disabled, he is still held to high expectations, and people still seem to interact with him as if he truly understands the message they try to convey to him. This is refreshing to me because no one really ever took into consideration the fact that he was intellectually disabled. And yes, they considered him dumb, but they still held him to normal standards. And to me, he lived and thrived a normal life. Perception of self. Forrest didn't think of himself as being different. His mother told him from a very young age that he would have the same opportunities as anyone else in life. She made sure to instill this confidence in him at a very young age. And as he grew older, I believe his perception of self gained a level of wisdom, and he began to see himself in a more realistic light. In one scene, Forrest asks, "Why don't you love me, Jenny? I'm not a smart man, but I know what love is." I think this scene alone shows that he did begin to see himself as different, not so much in a negative light, but in a pure way, and still held with confidence. Conflict management. Now, Forrest was no stranger to conflict in this movie, and in fact, he faced many adversities and many trying, heart-provoking times. He either approached all of them without fear or didn't approach them at all. And if he wasn't tackling an issue head on and with full force, he was simply avoiding them without even knowing it. He wasn't one to react by yelling, arguing, or fighting, and in fact, the only time he ever got physical with anyone or acted with aggression was whenever he felt the need to protect Jenny. In one scene, Forrest actually witnesses Jenny's boyfriend smacking her, and this causes him to go into a rage, and it makes him run to the boyfriend and he struck him. This is Forrest acting out of anger and emotion, but this is not a normal occurrence for him. In fact, Forrest was a very kind person, and he saw people through eyes of innocence. He never considered things like race, religion, or status when he was dealing with people, and in his eyes, I'm sure everyone was equal. Nonverbal communication. It plays a great deal of importance in this movie, and Forrest wasn't the brightest character and often lacked understanding of the things said to him from different people. His successive relationships with people came from his ability to read their body language and emotions. These are all components of nonverbal communication. He knew someone was hurt through their tears or angry from the inflection of their voices. A great scene describing nonverbal language would be Jenny on the ledge. This scene had no dialogue, but it was clear that Jenny was contemplating suicide but became very frightened after nearly falling off the ledge. The scene closes with her rocking herself in a corner, clearly looking disturbed. There are so many scenes we can touch on and talk about in terms of nonverbal communication in this movie, but again, he was an intellectually disabled man. And much of his success in communication and ability to thrive with people stemmed from his ability to read their body language and listen to their verbal cues. All of his communication was based upon what he felt from people, not so much as what they said. Again, in my opinion, this is what makes the movie so special, and also why I chose this movie for this communications class. I feel that it shows us just how much elements other than words are extremely powerful in terms of communication. And for my final thoughts. I learned a great deal about communication and many aspects that determine whether communication is effective or not. In a day and age where political correctness and cultural sensitivity, or lack of, can be a touchy topic, we need to be mindful of not only what we say, but how we say it. As a speaker, it's your responsibility to try your best to convey a message with particular intent. We have to know the audience that we're appealing to and use techniques like verbal cues, facial expressions, and body language to get our point across as best as possible. These skills of communication will also allow us to read the receiver's reactions and how they're determining the message. This may be critical for us to know when it's time to improvise, continue on with our message, or maybe just stop the attempt entirely. Of course, the situation or topic can vary and require different communication skills, but we have to be mindful of all aspects of communication. I still think that the best skill to have is to be able to listen effectively. And I believe that listening is far more valuable than speaking. We learn so much more by listening effectively, more than speaking. And it's required in order to have successful communication. I definitely appreciated this class. I definitely thank you so much for taking the time to listen to my slideshow, and I hope you enjoyed it. And if you haven't seen Forrest Gump, I urge you to do so. I think you'll definitely like the movie. Bye for now.